Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Pigskin Breakdown Show, powered by Sports Guys Iowa. I am here today with my good buddy, Jay Jordan Cole. Jay, how are you doing today?
Another day talking football. Couldn't be any better.
That's right. And we got another fun guest, as always, today on the Pigskin Breakdown Show. We'll get into our guest here in just a moment, but first, I want to take care of a few housekeeping items. If you haven't done so already, please follow all of our Sports Guys Iowa pages. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You can find our full podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube as well. So we're getting pretty accessible there, Jay, and hope the viewers can find us on one or all platforms. We do need to talk about an ad read here quick with Van Ag. So farmers, this was a big one for you. Farmers, protect your yield and improve your fields with Van Ag out of Dysart. Van Ag offers precision drone applications for fungicides, foliar nutrients, and fast, accurate cover crop seeding. Less crop damage, more efficiency, and the ability to work when other equipment can't. To learn more, call Nate Van Buren at 319-430-3671. Again, that's Nate Van Buren with Van Ag at 319-430-3671. So, Jay, we talked a little bit about our guest today. This is a little bit outside the box for the Pigskin Breakdown Show because everything has been inside the state of Iowa so far. We're actually going across the border, the Missouri River border, too. We're going over to Lincoln, and we're going to talk to Coach Jacob Donohoe, the new head coach of Nebraska Wesleyan. First of all, Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. How's your Thursday been?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on here. Appreciate what you guys are doing for small schools and just getting the exposure out here has been great.
Yeah, that's what we aim to do is try to gas up programs like the Prairie Wolves. So we'll go in a little bit today to talk about who Coach Donohoe is, tie in his Iowa ties, and how he got to where he is today. So a fun ride for someone who is still pretty relatively young in the coaching landscape of things. We'll go ahead and we'll just dive right in. So, Coach, you just came from Co. Okay, you're going to Nebraska Wesleyan, who's hasn't had a winning season in, I think, since 2013. So what attracted you to this job, and what makes you think that, what made you believe that this program, I guess I should say, could be turned around in short order?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's about people and relationships and anything that you do. So had to come in, interview in person, and just to get to meet the administration and to step foot in Lincoln. Didn't know a ton about Lincoln, just with the University of Nebraska being here and growing up in the Iowa City area, you kind of knew a little bit about Lincoln, but being able to step foot in Lincoln and just seeing the atmosphere and the potential that the city has, as well as Nebraska Wesleyan, was the biggest driving factor for me, and being able to turn around the program and be able to use the city as a backing of, in the other city, there's a lot of small towns. Besides Cedar Rapids and Lincoln, you got smaller towns, and being able to use the city of Lincoln as a backing for us to get some successful recruits, to be able to bring them to the Midwest if it's not a local kid, and show them what the Midwest is like. Being a lot of people having the stereotypical, oh, there's just cornfields out in the Midwest, but actually living in Lincoln, it's actually been a surprise to me. It's my favorite town I've lived in so far, and I've been very fortunate that I've lived in some really nice towns.
That's great. And finding the right fit, that's all. And you get your athletic department behind you too. And like you said, you're still in the Midwest there. So getting those big farm boys in, getting the trenches all taken care of. You talked about getting to Lincoln. You've had an extensive coaching journey so far. Just walk us through your coaching journey from playing at Illinois State and then being a GA there, and then having 2 stops at Co, and then giving JUCO a little bit of your time, and very successful, if I might add. And now at Nebraska Wesleyan, how did each of those stops prepare you to become a head coach?
Yep, I always knew I wanted to be a coach. I didn't know at what level. I was bouncing around the educational side of things when I was a student and playing, and then I ended up getting injured, and the coaching staff was like, do you want to join the staff as a student assistant? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to try this college thing out. And I fell in love with it, not having to go teach a class or anything like that, just kind of X's and O's all day long. So joined the coaching staff going into my senior year, and was very fortunate to just transition into a GA role, and then kind of rode that wave for a while and coached every position skill position, I should say, on offense. So kind of bounced around through a lot of different coaches and coordinators, and being able to understand the skill position offensive game really well was my strength at that point. And then I was kind of looking for an opportunity. My GA days were kind of getting over. I had just finished up my grad school and really didn't want to go back to grad school very much. I actually knew Cody Bethy that was at Co at the time, just being from Williamsburg, and gave him a call. I'm like, hey, I heard you're looking for a receivers coach. And this was all during the COVID time. And the COVID season was in the spring, and this was January. And I came in and interviewed and was fortunate enough that they gave me the receivers job that year. And it was a short stint there through the COVID spring. I think we played one game that spring, and then got the opportunity to be full-time back at Illinois State as the recruiting coordinator and working with the offensive line. And that was one thing. I knew I always wanted to be an offensive coordinator someday. So I wanted to put myself in a position to be able to coach every single position. I didn't really know the ins and outs of offensive line play at that time of my career. So I wanted to jump on that opportunity to be able to learn from a very successful offensive line coach, Harold Etheridge, that's still at Illinois State, and learn the ins and outs of why we actually block a certain way. All right, I could draw the X's and O's up, but I just didn't know the ins and outs of why we teach certain ways. So took that year at Illinois State to be the recruiting coordinator, and that helped me a ton with a lot of the organizational part of things. Now that I'm a head coach, being able to have the organization of being the recruiting coordinator and organizing all those recruiting meetings really helped me out in that aspect. And then Brady Davis was a quarterback for us at Illinois State, and he got an offensive coordinator job at Tyler Junior College, and he gave me a call. He's like, hey, I just got an OC job. You want to come down and make an offense with me? And I was like, okay, we're both quarterback guys. What are you thinking? He's like, but you're going to be coaching the offensive line. I know you're going to be able to do it. You've been working with O-line for a year, and let's just do it. Let's make an offense together and let's roll. I went down, packed my bags, knew nothing about Tyler, Texas. And next week I was down there, and I kind of opened my eyes to junior college. I didn't really know a ton about junior college. I knew Iowa Western a little bit, being very successful, but I didn't know a ton about the junior college realm, and learned a ton about that. And about Texas high school football was huge. That was one thing that was huge for my career, in my opinion, is learning about Texas high school football and just how they operate down there. In my opinion, it's some of the best football in high school football in the country. Getting to meet a lot of coaches down there, getting some connections, and then actually diving in and coaching that offensive line, right? Not knowing everything, all the ins and outs about it, but just diving in and coaching the offensive line hands-on. And one thing that I really took to advantage is we were a pretty successful junior college, and a lot of big-time coaches came through the door, and they were looking for our players. So I sat down with Brady one day. I'm like, hey, we're young in this profession. We need to ask every successful coach that comes in, let's ask them a question. Just, they want something from us, let's get something from them as well. So let's ask them a question. And I would just take a lot of time. Am I coaching this drill right? You watch me coach Indy. Am I doing that right as an offensive line coach? Or what did you like? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Just bouncing ideas. And that's one thing that I feel like has helped me in my coaching career, is just having an open mind with everything. And I'm not going to be the coach that's ever, I do this way, it works. We're always going to do it. Everybody learns in different ways, and everybody has different abilities. So being able to use that at Tyler helped me a ton in the trenches. And then being able to go up to be an offensive coordinator. I was 3 years as an offensive line coach, and I was like, man, I really want to get back to quarterbacks and call my own plays. And that's one thing that Brady Davis, give a ton of credit for my success, because he helped a ton of being able to call plays. He helped me, okay, what do you think of the run game here? We talk a lot on the sideline game day. So prepared me. I didn't feel like a first-time offensive coordinator last season, because I had that thought process for the past 3 years, just bouncing ideas off of Brady, and we're close. We talk every week ever since that I left TJC, but went up to Co last year, and give a ton of credit to Coach Staker for letting me take over the offense, because they were very successful before I came in, and he was going to just step away from the coordinator role and take just over the offensive line. And that's one thing that I said, if I'm going to be a coordinator, I want it to be my offense, just because I don't want to step in and run somebody else's offense my first time being a coordinator. And he agreed to all that. It was awesome. So I give a ton of credit to Coach Staker for allowing, because it was a successful team before I got there, and being able to take a step back to the play calling and let me do what I thought and go from there. And we had a pretty successful year last season and didn't go as far as we wanted to in the playoffs, but had a pretty successful year. And then that led to this opportunity over Christmas break, being able to interview and being able to come here in the first part of January.
The relationships that you talked about, that's one of the things that's been a common theme with all these interviews we got. Roots run deep with the game of football, and there is more than one way to skin a cat or run an offense. So this has been really interesting learning about all your stops and your eagerness to get out of your comfort zone and say, hey, I need to understand how to operate a whole offense. I need to learn these ins and outs of working with the offensive line. That's really fascinating to me. And you touched about your success too at Co. Shoot, last year, you look at these, they had a lot of school records, it says, including passing yards in a season, passing touchdowns, total offense. Brady Kelly was the ARC MVP too.
Yep, he was a league MVP last year.
Tyler, Texas, I want to say, not to get too far off topic, but I want to say, is that where Earl Campbell's from?
Yes, it's pretty cool. So they did the Campbell Award was hosted there every year. So we were able to go to that every single year when we were down there.
Yeah, a lot of history down there. It seems like the movies tell the truth that Texas high school football is just a little bit different than the rest of the world.
Yeah, I remember going to my first game. It was with a few of the coaches down there, and they're like, we're going to take Coach Donohoe to his first Texas high school game. I'm like, oh, it's a 3-4A game. What are you talking about? It's not even a 6A game. He's like, yeah, just watch. And we get there an hour earlier, and there's 5,000 people there already. It was a pretty cool little deal.
Wow. Yeah. That's nuts for sure. I'd like to get down there someday and check it out. But enough about me. We're here to talk about you. We talked about this prolific offense and everything. You've had some great experiences at Illinois State as well. You were there during a successful stretch of that program as a player and coach. Played some incredible programs, and I think what people would definitely say is the measuring stick for conferences in the FCS. What were your biggest takeaways from that experience, and how did coaching against those programs shape your coaching philosophy?
Yep. So biggest thing is my biggest coaching philosophy is you got to operate a championship mentality in everything that you do. And I take that from the Missouri Valley Football Conference, because if you don't show up one week, you're not going to win. You got to show up, whether it's the number one team in conference or it's the bottom of the pack. You got to show up every single day with a championship mentality and be able to execute on a daily basis, or anybody can knock you off. So that's one thing that seeing that as a player, seeing that as a coach, being able to make sure that you are prepared every single week, and you can't take weeks off. You can't take a day off because somebody else is out there working, somebody else is out there getting better. So seeing that as a player, like stepping in my freshman year, we went to the national championship, just being able to see a program like coming from a small town Iowa high school, going into college, going into a successful FCS program, and just notice, wow, this is actually what it really takes. Unfortunately, we're never ever to get a state championship at Williamsburg. When I was there, we got knocked off before we got to the state game, but being able to see that my freshman year of winning the Missouri Valley and then getting pushed to that national championship game and just seeing what it took and what it took in close games, being able to just compose yourself under pressure is a big thing that I talk about a lot. Is we got to put ourselves in stressful situations in practice. So then when it becomes game time, we just go out there and operate.
That seems to be a theme across all athletics in the Missouri Valley. We do have our Deep in the Valley podcast where they cover the basketball portion, and every coach is always talking about you just cannot take a night off. Anybody can get got, and it just seems like it's just great athletics all around. I don't want to bring back up any bad memories about that national championship game. It was to North Dakota State against Mr. Carson Wentz.
Yep, with about a minute left, Carson Wentz, I think, threw a slot fade, and it was a 2-minute procedure for him, and he just marched right down the field. So it was unfortunate for us, but it was seeing that live. It was like, okay, yeah, that's why you're a draft pick and a high draft pick, because you operate in that situation, in that high tense of a game.
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to get at there, was just how you perceived him as a player. And just, I know a lot of people always had their questions, say, going into the draft or whatever about a North Dakota State quarterback.
And North Dakota State does a great job up there preparing everybody for the NFL, right? Had Carson Wentz, you had Easton Stick, and Lance.
Cam Miller.
I just remember seeing all of them operate. And that's the biggest thing that stood out to me watching them from the other side is usually you're waiting on the quarterback to mess up or not make a play in the big moment. And every big moment, they made a play. And that's, I think, in my opinion, what separates the elite quarterbacks from the good quarterbacks is, okay, when it gets down to that moment, are you capable of making that play? And credit to the NDSU staff of always having their quarterbacks ready to make that play. So that's one thing that I look at in quarterbacks all the time is, I don't care, on 1st and 10 pass, I can go out there and make one, but can you do it when the pressure's on, and can you sit in the pocket and can you deliver a ball?
Absolutely. We could talk about those guys all day. I'm interested to see how NDSU does the jump to the FBS level. But we'll pivot back to the D3 side of things here quick. We want to talk a little bit about, we touched a little bit about your offense right now and how you did call that at coach. Is it fair to say that you'll be calling the plays, or are you passing that off to the offensive coordinator? Kind of to walk through how this is going to look. What's the offense going to look like in Lincoln without divulging too much?
Yeah, for sure. I am going to be the offensive coordinator for year one. Got offensive line coach hired, Coach Kyle Murphy, coming from Fort Hays State. He spent some time at Kansas State, but I'm going to kind of try to mold him into that role. But with it being my offense that we're installing, I'm going to call it at least for the first year. Hopefully we can get up in some games and kind of pass that off to be able to help him grow in the offensive coordinator role, because I think that's huge, being able to get some experience. But for sure, in some practices, having him call it in some periods. Just with our rules and regulations in the spring, we didn't get to do any of that in the spring, so it'll be fun passing that off to him in the fall in some of the call-up periods, because I feel pretty confident in being able to call plays game day. So just having him be able to take over, whether it's a drive or two in the season, or whether it's a couple games, whether it's a whole quarter or a half, gonna figure that out as we go. But as of right now, the plan is for me to be the full-time offense coordinator.
That's great. Like building your staff, you talked about that. There is one guy that he came over from Truman State, your nickname Bear.
Yep.
The article I read was he's the youngest coordinator hired in college history.
Yep. So Bear, so I met him when I was down at Tyler Junior College, and he came in as a player and had an injury, tore his ACL for the second time, and he just knew it was kind of time to hang it up, and he joined our coaching staff. So was working with the linebackers there. I was able to coach 2 All-Americans as when he was a 19, 20-year-old or 21-year-old, however old he was at the time. And I always thought back, there was a lot of times where I was a GA and trying to get a job. I'm like, man, everybody's saying, you don't have any experience, we're going to hire this guy. And I always thought in the back of my mind, if I'm ever in a position to hire anybody, I'm going to make sure that I take the age out of it. It's just what I think they can do, because I'm a big believer in it's about the people and it's not about a number of age or experience. If you can trust them, I'm a big proponent of hiring as somebody that you trust. So have a ton of trust in Bear. I told him, it's your defense, man. The only thing I might say is the players that we put out on the field. That's the only thing I might tell you is, hey, this is one of our better players. We need to get him on the field, figure that out. But other than that, he's going to be our full-time defense coordinator, and I won't even know all the calls. I'll hopefully get there someday, but we're working on our offense and trying to get that thing rolling. So got 100% trust in Bear, and I'm really excited for what he does in his first year as a coordinator, which he was actually the special teams coordinator at Truman State last year. Has some coordinator experience on the special teams side of things, but now being the youngest defensive coordinator, it's a really cool deal for him too, right? 'Cause I'm excited to watch him grow in the profession being so young.
Yeah, you just look at the guy, take a look at his coaching profile, and that guy just looks like he is going to be a pain in the butt to whoever he's drawing a defense up against. He just looks like a really blue-collar, rugged guy coming from Truman State, too. And I want to say they had a pretty dang good year last year, too, because we cover Upper Iowa as well. We talk about the Peacocks. And I think did Truman get them last year, Jay? I think they did.
I'm pretty sure he's helping out. I don't know if necessarily defense coordinator, but some of the defense to where he held them to
coach?
he held them to 2.5 yards a pop on the ground. So guy knows what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to give him a shout out. So he just had a baby 2 days ago now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Congratulations to him.
First baby. So I'm excited for that.
That's awesome.
Timing, it was supposed to be the 10th or something right before we report. I'm like, oh man, you think it could be a little bit earlier than that? And he's like, I think it's going to be early. Yep. So that's exciting for them.
The Cub came early. That's good. Good timing. That's he knows the value of football and the time that it goes into to help him build a successful program. So congrats to the little Cub. We don't know his name yet. I guess we'll have to find that out someday. But
yeah, I'll let him say that. I'm not going to spoil that surprise.
we love that. But we'll shift a little bit to some expectations and culture that you're trying to build out there in Lincoln. What exactly does culture look like that you're trying to establish within the NWU football program? And what could Prairie Wolves fans expect to see from this team on Saturdays this fall?
Yep. And one thing with me is I don't talk culture a ton. I talk standards. So I'm a true believer. Your daily standards set your culture of your program, right? So I'm not a big coach that puts a whole bunch of signs up on the wall and points at stuff and stuff like that. It's, are we going to operate a championship mentality in every single thing that we do? And we have one acronym, which is team. So T, this is one thing I got from Tyler with the head coach down there, Tanner Jacobson, is T, together. It's not about me, it's about us. E, effort, all out or get out. A, attention to detail in every single thing that we do. And then M, mastery, being the best version of ourselves. So that's the one acronym that we go by, and playing as a team and being the best version of ourselves that we can be on a daily basis is the biggest thing that we're looking for. And operating in a championship mentality in anything that we do, whether we're on the practice field, making sure that we're attacking every single period of practice, whether we're in the classroom, attacking that test, or maybe it's that project that we have, whether it's in the cafeteria, just being nice to the cafeteria staff, saying please, thank you, picking up after ourselves, pushing our chairs in, having respect on campus, just being the best version of ourselves and having a championship mentality in everything that we do is the biggest thing that we're looking for. I think we have that turn in the right direction, being able to implement that more the culture side of things, the standard side of things in the spring, because we couldn't do a ton on the field. So being able to kind of implement a lot of that in our 16 days that we had of contact in the spring was huge and critical for the success coming this fall.
Yeah, if they follow that acronym, it seems like success will follow. Just being positive and good young men, success always finds its way. But yeah, I just had another question about kind of the message other teams within the ARC after they get done playing Prairie Wolves. What do you want them to be taking away?
That's a great question. After we play a team, we would love for them to walk off the field and be like, wow, we got punched in the mouth a little bit. We want to be a tough team and we want to be an explosive team. So, man, they got a lot of athletes and they're not afraid to get after you a little bit. So creating that toughness mentality, that we're not going to back down from anybody and we're not afraid of any fight, is going to be the one thing that we want teams and coaches to be like, oh, man, Nebraska Wesleyan just took it to us. And whether it's the run game, whether it's in the trenches, defensive line, whether it's in the secondary, we want to be able to be a physical football team that plays fast and physical.
Shoot, you look at your offense last year at Co, and you ran the scoreboard up. And I want to take a look talk a little bit about last year too. And you played Nebraska Wesleyan and beat them. Could you maybe talk about when you're coaching that game, are you able to take anything from that Co game and see in that moment, like, hey, this is a player that could be a building block for a program that you're now leading?
Yeah, great question. And obviously at that time, I didn't really look at that because I had no idea that this was going to be on the table. But I really take a look at what we got in person. I don't like to look at the tape and look at what they did last year just because I don't know how they were coached, right? I don't know if it was, okay, he was actually doing the right technique that he was coached, or what type of coverage they were running, or okay, what type of technique up front offensive line were they actually using for blocking. So didn't take a lot of merit into that. I'm going to kind of see who we have in person and see who we got recruited to see if there's somebody that can come in and help us out early in our recruiting class. It's kind of a roundabout way to answer that question, but I guess I really didn't use that game in person to see any of our players that we had. And honestly, at that time, I was just the offensive coordinator, so I just cared about the defense. I had no idea. I had to ask him when I got here. I'm like, I got to watch the tape again, but who even played quarterback? I had no idea. And it was the starter wasn't in that game. So I was like, okay, that made me feel a little bit better because the starter wasn't playing.
Oh, for sure. And you look back at the schedule, though, too. The ARC in general, this has been a common theme talking about to all the coaches this week, is just keeps elevating. It was so close to being a 3-bit team last year. And you look at some of the games, though, and from a record perspective, wasn't what Nebraska Wesleyan wanted, but there's a lot of close games. Took Simpson to the limit, lost by 1. Kept it relatively close with Central. Wartburg lost to Loris by 3. Kept it close against UD. So I think there's definitely some positive momentum, especially if you got a lot of returning players. Do you have any captains identified, or do we got to go through camp to see who's going to be the quote unquote leaders of the squad?
Yes, so we're going to go through camp before we identify any captains. And I'm not a big proponent of just having, okay, we got 2 to 3 captains on the team, because everybody leads in different ways. So I don't want to say, okay, these are our only leaders of the team, because we have to have everybody lead in their certain unique way. So we will have captains for games, but we're not going to say, okay, these are the 4 or 3 captains that we have this season. We operate with a leadership council. So we just have one leader of every position group and divvy that up, and we have all the positions vote on that to who wants to be their representative. And I meet with them individually as a group and just check in on me too, and check in our staff, because I'm open and honest with everybody. I want to sit down and be like, okay, I know a lot of freshmen might not be comfortable coming to me and saying, I don't like how this is being done, or I'm not getting treated the right way or how I want to be treated. So being able to open that up to a leadership council, and I just, hey, doors are shut in this room, and don't even bring your phone in the room, and we're just going to communicate, and it's an open table. You can say anything. You're not going to hurt my feelings, and I better not hurt your feelings. This is just an open, honest communication. And I think that's helped out a ton. It helped out in the spring a lot of just getting ideas of, okay, they have a whole brand new coaching staff. So what's the vibe, and what's every position thinking? And is there some positions that we maybe need to have some more attention on? And is there some positions that we're having too much attention on? So that's one thing that I do a lot, is have a leadership council instead of just nominating the 3 or 4 captains for the year.
Yeah, it's good, because then if everybody's got the same common goal in place, like you said, what you say is not going to hurt our feelings, vice versa. You guys just want to win and be successful. So just circle back a little bit. You did talk about Lincoln is your favorite spot to live so far. You have any favorite weekend getaway deals you like to do? I know you're just a football guy through and through, but anything you like to do in Lincoln?
There is. It's one of the toughest putt courses I've ever been to. I can't remember the name of the spot, but it's in South Lincoln. We went as a staff, and it's actually a par 72 putt. It's pretty fun.
Wow.
And none of us shot par, so it was a fun little deal in South Lincoln. So that's kind of one thing that we did on a weekend that we had free in the spring. But there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of golf courses around. I just recently got into golf, so been checking out a lot of golf courses around Lincoln. And then whether it's the Haymarket downtown by Nebraska, just being able to walk around some shops and restaurants and stuff down in the Haymarket, only being 5 to 10 minutes away from the University of Nebraska is huge for being a small school. So being able to have those students live a small school atmosphere, but then, okay, you're just a quick Uber down the road or a quick drive down the road to the University of Nebraska. So that's one thing. You get both big and small field schools.
And then also, it's just been a short stint in there so far, but if you picked out maybe a favorite spot you like to go eat, grab a drink, say someone's coming into town to pregame for a Prairie Wolves game, where are you going to send them and what are you going to get?
Yep. So you got to hit the pub, which is just a few blocks away from campus. So hitting the pub is the main spot. Got really good burgers, wings. If you're looking for more of a sit down restaurant, you got to go into the Haymarket, about 10 minutes away. That's a really nice spot right by the University of Nebraska. But there's a ton of nice bar restaurant areas around. There's a place out called the Watering Hole that's close to my house, so I like to stop there and get a beer or some wings when I'm on my way home on the weekend or something like that.
And you talked about this earlier in the show, but I've been there several times, and I love Lincoln. I think it's a really beautiful town. I've had some good luck. I just went out there a few months ago, had a good meal at, I believe it's called Misty's Restaurant and Lounge, nice little steakhouse.
Yeah, I have not been there yet, but I've heard great things. So that's on my list to go to soon.
It's kind of like walking into a time machine. There's some really cool leather upholstery chair. I don't know if you ever made it to, did you ever make it to the Carnforth Inn outside of Victor at all when that was open?
Oh yeah. My grandma grew up in Ladora, so
okay.
Wow, so yep.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit different than that, but it's got same vibes. While we're on Iowa County, this has kind of been an unofficial Williamsburg Raider week for our show. So we had Coach Bethke on the other day. We've got Coach Ritchie over at Cornell. You were around, what year was it that you graduated from Williamsburg again?
14, I graduated.
14. Okay. Could you maybe talk about some of the athletes that you played with during your time there? Because Williamsburg, I know you said you came up short and for the state title bid, but the amount of talent that's came through Williamsburg is insane, at least in my lifetime and yours too. So do you have a favorite student athlete or a favorite story you could tell about the Williamsburg Raider?
Shoot, I grew up around a lot of great athletes, and it's unfortunate my time we kind of had a little drought there of guys going to Iowa. When I was a freshman, Austin Blythe was a senior, and then he went to Iowa, and then I think there was a little stint of a few years before anybody else went to Iowa, because that was the dream going up in Williamsburg. You're 20 minutes down the road from Iowa City. I want to be a Hawkeye when I grow up. We kind of had a little dry spell during my time. Unfortunately, we ended up making a run in the tournament, but we didn't send anybody to an FBS program for a couple years when I was in school. But we had a lot of talented athletes, just growing up with some buddies and growing up playing Parnell baseball, being from the Victor area. Parnell baseball and winning a lot of games in Parnell baseball was a lot of fun. And then just transitioning into Williamsburg, it was a lot of fun growing up and a lot of competitive games. That's the biggest thing that I attribute a lot of my success in my career has been just how I grew up at being competitive from the day I started playing sports, and everything was competitive, whether it was wiffle ball out in the front yard or whether it was playing basketball on the street. It was just whatever we were doing, we were having a ton of athletes in the Williamsburg area to be able to compete against.
But you guys played just from that age too. Great athletes, great talent, great communication too. And so it goes to show that the whole Williamsburg community is on the same page with wanting their student athletes to be successful, and a testament to them. Got that state championship a couple years ago. But Coach, again, we're really appreciative of your time, and just want to say thanks again for allowing us to learn a little bit more about Nebraska Wesleyan, because as we said earlier, we know it's outside the border, but you're going to be playing all Iowa schools in the conference slate of games. You do have a non-conference slate of games. I think the home opener Saturday, that's the season opener is the home opener against Concordia.
Yep. So Concordia Moorhead's coming down to play us, and then we got Dakota State, and then we're going all the way to Chicago for our last non-conference game. So University of Chicago.
Yeah. Did you have any input in the scheduling of the third non-conference game, or was that put in place before you took over the reins?
It was put in place already. So I'll start getting into the schedule on 28 season. We'll start that up here pretty soon here. But the 27 season and 26 season were already intact.
Sure. Yeah, that's been a fun topic to talk about too. We had Coach Mack and Bethke, like we said, and their non-conference and schedule in general is just wonky. They only have 3 home games and back-to-back trips to Minnesota, and then they got to drive all the way down to Mississippi, down to Jackson. So it's been interesting to see where all the ARC schools have plugged in that Luther replacement.
Yeah, we were talking about that a few weeks ago. I'm good friends with Cody because we grew up same high school, and then Reed Miller, actually, that's the new defensive coordinator at Co. We all golf together every summer. We try to get together and golf, and a lot of coaches are like, how do you get together and play with them? I'm like, man, it's about relationships. When we're not playing them, they're like brothers to me, right? And if I go play my brother, I'm going to go beat him, right? That's what it's about. It's not like we're going to go hang out and tell our secrets to each other or what we're doing against each other. We were playing golf about a month ago now, and we were just talking about that schedule. Man, you got a brutal schedule, only having 3 home games. That's a little rough, but that's just kind of how things fell with the conference rearranging a little bit and everybody trying to get a game if they didn't have one scheduled already or had somebody planned to reach out and play.
Who's the best golfer of you 3 then?
Oh, I don't know. Probably Reed. I would say Reed Miller. He's probably the best.
Very humble of you.
He is the best for sure. I'm going to shoot Cody down on this one. I think he's had some really good defenses in the past, but I think we both got him on the golf game. So
well, that's fun. Thanks again, Coach, for shedding a little bit of light on everything and taking the time to talk about all things football here in the state of Iowa and Nebraska as well. So we're really excited for you, and we're excited to follow you, and best of luck on September 5th against Concordia.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys and appreciate the exposure you guys do to all the small schools.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. Really appreciate it.